Yesterday afternoon, I was reading some of the news coverage marking the 84th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor. And as more and more of those veterans die, there are fewer and fewer people left to tell the history. It can be easy for us sometimes to forget how much that day that will live in infamy changed our country. What an effect it had on us, on our world. For an American, it affected us, our lives, in ways we couldn't realize until years later. And unfortunately, the sad thing about the anniversary yesterday is that of the 12 surviving veterans who were there that day, none of them were able to attend the event, either because of their age or illness. And it's sad when things like that happen, we tend to forget our history. We tend to forget the events. I think of that journey and I marvel at how God works, how He weaves together those threads of our lives to tell our story, to tell your story, to tell my story. God enters into human history in the most unexpected ways and fills us with wonder, astonishment, and even with joy. And this solemnity gives us the supreme example of that. We honor the Immaculate Conception, the creation of Mary in her own mother's womb, free from all stain of even original sin, and awe and wonder at God's work, God's creation, how He would preserve Mary, of all people, from original sin. God so loved the world that in the fullness of time, He gave the world His only begotten Son. Yet we recall that He also gave us Mary, that perfect vessel, that first tabernacle, if you will, a woman unstained by original sin, so that from the moment of her conception, she was immaculate. And doing that, God set the stage for the beautiful event we just heard in our gospel, the Annunciation, which brought about another conception when Mary conceived Jesus Himself in her womb. To a skeptical world, to a puzzled teenager in Nazareth, this maybe even seemed impossible. Mary wondering what this greeting meant for her. But of course, nothing's impossible for God. And this solemnity, it underscores the extravagant love that brought joy to the world. And it places at the forefront a humble peasant girl full of grace, that great collaborator with God and in His plan for our salvation. If it wasn't for Mary, our salvation would still be hanging in the balance. This day in particular, we remember it is a salvation that began long before any gospel was even written. It began before the empty tomb. It began before Calvary. It started before the miracles and teachings of Jesus. It goes back before Christ even walked on water or fed the multitude, before even the stable in Bethlehem, and even before the visit of the angel in Nazareth. It's a salvation that's real, it's tangible in the way it began and the events we commemorate here and now. The fact that Mary, when she was conceived in the womb of her mother, was free from all sin. That's where Mary's story began. And in a sense, it's where our story began too. Here begins the glorious chains of events that led to our salvation. Attention must be paid. We need to remember this. We need to hold this wonder of our love close to our hearts and keep recalling it. Just like all those other great moments of our history, moments that define us and moments that lift us up. Because if we forget, they will be forgotten. Isn't it all a wonder? But if Mary's story teaches us anything about our lives, it is that our God is a God of surprises. As we near this halfway point of Advent, during this season of anticipation and yearning, let's pause to give thanks to God for the miracle of Mary, an immaculate sign of God's enduring love. She's kind of a figure of steadfast hope for us, the woman who reminds us again and again that in God's hands, truly, truly, nothing is impossible with God.